for sure, the new information technologies are fragmenting monolithic social consensus. And what I mean by that is, for instance, when I was a kid, on Friday night, between 6 and 7, Gunsmoke was on CBS. You could have fairly high confidence that 30% of the American population was tuned in. In other words, that as a culture, we were all at the same moment sharing this experience. Now, you know, people follow their own interests, and so there is enormous fragmentation. And this thing I call the balkanization of epistemology goes along with that. Now we aren't either Catholics, Lutherans, or Jews. Now there's a vast smorgasbord of possibilities, even the, you know, and it continues to fragment almost down to the individual level. So, for instance, I used to be a news hound. Once that meant hourly newscasts. Now, whenever I need to know what's going on in the world, whether that's twice a day or twice an hour, I just go to the top stories page at Yahoo, and it's delivered to me. So there is a tendency for us to eccentrify and island ourselves. But in a way, that is the precondition for creativity, that what we give back to the society based on our personal pursuit of our own eccentric agendas, what we give back to the society then are diverse insights, new understandings that can't arise in an environment of consensus. As to then what your question implies, the counterflow of that, how shall we build then a culture? In a way, I think that what we're seeing is the end of culture. That culture is a xenophobic, paranoid notion. Our culture means our consensus, how we think, how we do things, the foods we eat. At the end of culture, at the end of that road, at the dissolution of culture, what you have is enormous diversity. Next week I'll be spending a few days in Manhattan. One of the reasons I love that town so much is because you never know what's next, and you never know who's next. And through the genius of its verticality, the rich cannot escape the culture of the streets, and the streets are not free from having the very wealthy, the very rich move among them. I mean, so everybody is confronted with everybody else, and it's being confronted by people you never imagined you would be confronted with that teaches you tolerance. You know, if you've never had to deal with people of a different ethnicity or class or gender preference, well, then you're just free to have any kind of paranoid fantasies you want about how those people operate. But if you are constantly in the presence of diversity, you begin to become sophisticated. This is what civilized means. It means, you know, your jaw doesn't drop when somebody walks by with a hairstyle or a fashion or a manner unfamiliar to you. You make a place for that. And it's xenophobia that drives warfare, territoriality, search for ideological purity, pogroms, inquisitions, so forth and so on. So, and it's very psychedelic to tolerate this diversity. And what psychedelics teach you, I think, is that underneath all these expressions of diversity, there's another human soul, a human animal, and there is great homogeneity. One of the concepts that's probably going to take a real pounding as we move into the future is the preciousness of the individual personality, the preciousness of the individual ego. I can imagine a future where bodies are nodal points in a web, and you just settle where it's comfortable for a while and then move on and make room for someone else. And you don't have to own a body, and you don't have to have one personality, one body. You can become context dependent. And as avatars flourish and this sort of thing, you all know what I mean by avatars. I mean these software constructs that are how you appear to other people on the internet, and these will be your personalities. Well, eventually we'll all have 50 or 60 avatars hanging in our virtual closet. And you'll get up in the morning and decide, do I want to be a meteorite, the Queen of England, a German pop star, or whatever? And mood will, and diversity will rule. It's all about boundary dissolution, plasticity, transformation, and the replacing of solid and defined entities with more amorphous and self-transforming entities. Perhaps we will become self-transforming machine elves, at least in some of our avatars.